London's Weird Old Women. I visited London about a year back. While I was there, I had two very weird experiences, both with old women. The first night I was there, I was walking down the street to get some dinner, and I had this old woman call me over from a cafe seat. A waitress was standing by her as if she was taking her order, I'm not sure. But anyways, she says, "Hey lad, do you know where Sicily is?" I say, "Yeah, it's in Italy." She points to the waitress and says, "You see, this is where this pretty young gal is from. Italy." I'm a little confused, but I say, "Yeah, okay." "Okay, lad, do you know what a vaporetti is?" Nope. "It's a type of boat. I want you to get on one and get the hell out of my country." The other case happened in an Oxfam store. I was looking at books and this old lady walks over to me. I don't really notice for a second or two, but when I do, I turn around to face her and say, "Can I help you?" She just continues to stare at my shirt, which has the Beatles on it. I say, "Ma'am," and she emits this high-pitched laugh, like a real cackle from a Halloween cartoon, and then just walks away. Weird. Oh, an addendum. About 3 years back, I was visiting some family in Mexico City. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and I was heading back to my hotel. I had passed through a park and one of the candy vendors, which are extremely common, was packing up and about to leave. She was this old, obviously lower class woman. As I passed her, I said, "Good night" in Spanish, and she just kind of stared at me. I shrugged it off, but a minute later, I'm jerked back, and I find that she's grabbed my shirt and is trying to haul me off. She's screaming curses in Spanish the whole time. She was an old lady, so I made off pretty easily, but it still freaked me the fuck out. I spent the night in a bathtub, scared out of my mind. Old ladies love animals. Growing up, I lived in a pretty sketchy neighborhood. Nothing too awful, but there were several convicted pedophiles that resided there. I was around 12 years old at the time of this story. Although I have always looked much younger than my true age, I'm a girl, currently 18 years old, and commonly mistaken for being around 15. Being outside was my absolute favorite thing growing up. My family would go for bike rides around the neighborhood, but as I grew up, my family stopped riding and it would just be me and my bike. My new favorite spot to bike around was a developing neighborhood because it had two large hills that I could zoom down. It was about 15 minutes from my house by bike. It had previously been a golf course, and they were selling individual lots for people to build their own houses on, so there were tons of empty fields. It was around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, in the summer, when I biked down to this neighborhood. I usually made loops around the streets, but this time I had stopped by my favorite lot, the one my family and I dreamed of one day buying, because the far side of it was much like a forest. I was on the sidewalk, watching a large group of quail running around with their babies, when I heard someone walk up next to me. It was an older lady, in her late 60s or early 70s. She was carrying a small dog with her, despite it having a leash on. "You like animals, huh?" she asked. "I love them. I've got 4 cats and 2 dogs at home," I replied, trying to make small talk. I've always been a shy person, and I was always trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, I guess. "This is Benny," she gestured to her dog. "I love animals too. I make Benny's food myself. I don't trust none of that government-made crap." She then proceeded to tell me in great detail the recipe for this homemade dog food she created. She asked general questions about my animals and scoffed when I told her I was more of a cat person, although I really love dogs too. After about 15 minutes, She stepped closer to me and began whispering, "I don't normally tell anyone this, but it's obvious you're an animal lover just like me. We're a lot alike. They're a family of geese that live in the bushes in that field right there." She pointed to an empty field that was back to some already built-in, inhabited homes. The only one dividing the one house from the field were large bush-like trees, the type people would prune designs from. The field was a little over half-acre in size and was filled with various shrubbery and trees. "There's a nest with eggs there. You should check on them and make sure they're okay. I'm only telling you because you're special like me. So do not tell anyone this. We don't want people hurting the babies, do we?" She grabbed my arm, then suddenly let go, smiled, and immediately turned around and walked away from me. I have always loved animals. I prefer them over most people, honestly. So the thought of being able to see a nest with eggs sounded really cool to me. However, I had a weird feeling about roaming a field so close to other people's homes alone. I biked home as fast as I could and did exactly what she told me not to do. I told my dad. He was an animal lover like me and thought it would be cool to check it out, so he biked back down there with me. On our way down, we passed the house that bordered the field, the one, as I mentioned before, that was only separated by a fence-like line of these trees. I saw the old woman standing there, facing the trees, peering through them, and watching the field she told me to search, still holding her dog. I could barely see her. It was like she was not only watching the field, but hiding in the trees at the same time so no one could see her watching. I didn't want her to know I told anyone, so I told my dad we should make a stop real quick. After a few short minutes, I hoped that she was gone, and we began searching the field. We searched and searched for 45 minutes. There was no nest. In fact, the field was alarmingly barren of animal life at all. My dad had a puzzled look on his face and told me that we should just go home. At the time, I didn't see the situation as odd. I was just disappointed that we never found any babies. I almost forgot this had happened until I was reading other creepy old woman posts. And it wasn't until now that I realized how creepy the whole situation was. Old Granny wanted me and my colleague to be her sex slave. So, this happened around a week ago, but it was really weird. Okay, I'll just start. So I started this job as a fundraiser like a month ago, and I really like it. I mean, you get to knock on people's doors and try to get them to sign up to a charity. You either got door slams or meet really nice people. So since I started, I did very bad because I just didn't get enough signups and thought I was gonna get kicked out. However, luckily I didn't, which is a surprise because I got this job to pay off some rent for my student house. I hate the landlord so much, the prick is ripping us off. Anyhow, I did, and I didn't care about this job, but it was good, I guess. I mean, as a student, every penny counts. I was a huge scavenger. Moving on, so I was in a team of 4, and we were in a pretty decent location to knock on doors. There are a lot of bungalows, and I mean a lot. I personally hated bungalows because you either get grumpy old people who tell you to piss off or really old pensioners. Either way, bungalow area is taboo for me. So yeah, I was in a team of 4. We had a pretty good team because within the first 30 minutes, one of us had a sign up and we were all very, very happy. So the day carried on as usual, and I think we got more signups. I can't remember, but here comes the weird part. So my friend decides to knock on this weird house. He walks off because he waited there for about 30 seconds. He was really eager to get a sign up. So I walked past the house that he knocked on, and suddenly, a very old, fragile woman opened the door. She was leaning on a walking frame. I knew immediately that she was going to give us a really sloppy response. However, I was wrong. She was really kind and was into my pitch, so my mate decided to run back. He was very eager. We double pitched, and the woman invited us to go inside her home. At this moment, though, I felt very uncomfortable because, I didn't want to step foot in a person's home while on a shift. But it was okay because me and my mate both stepped in. She told us to sit down and we carried on our pitching. At this point, we thought we had the sign up literally. We were a bee's dick away. That's how close we were. Unfortunately, she couldn't because her grandson looks after her bank account. So I and my mate were sort of upset, but she told us that she had cancer and was battling it. The strange thing is, she wasn't sad at all, and she kept smiling, which made both of us smile happy because normally, when we encounter someone diagnosed with such an illness such as cancer, it turns out to be bad because the person would probably have a breakdown right in front of us, get angry, and even be extremely upset. But this lady was the very, very opposite. She was sweet, and she had a kind heart, and we blessed her. So, she carried on telling us a lot about herself and her past. She was 90 years old, but she told me and my mate to stay until the rain calms down. It was raining heavily that day. She also insisted us to have a cup of tea with her. At this point, we knew we had to go because we didn't really want to waste any more time. We had to knock on more doors and get more people to sign up. However, here comes the weird stuff. She carried on talking and talking about more about herself. That she said that she had a really filthy mind. I felt really uncomfortable at this point, and I just wanted to frickin' leave, so we decided to laugh because we found this to be really funny. Then we attempted to leave, but this was weird. I was slowly creeping towards the door and whispered to my mate, "Yo, I think she thinks that we're boy toys or something." I grabbed the door handle and then realized that the door was locked. I was like, holy shit, how are we gonna leave? This lady can barely lift herself up. My mate started to panic. Not gonna lie, I was panicking as well. Then we heard her laugh in a creepy way, and she said, "Oh, the door is locked. Now I can keep you as my sex slaves." Not lying, she said that. I was traumatized. I was like, no, wait, this is too weird. She kept laughing and laughing in a creepy way. Then she said, "I need help getting up because you young men need to leave and I have the keys." So I picked her up from the chair to her walking cane, then realized she was purposely putting weight on herself, so it was really difficult to pick her up. I thought to myself that if I can't escape, I jump out the window. She eventually got up and slowly approached the door. Then, finally, the door opened. She stopped us again and said, "You sure you two boys want to leave? I want to keep you here for 6 months." She said it in a sinister way and was laughing again. In my head, I was like, fuck no, I need to go. I left my friend behind and ran, but he eventually caught up. We were laughing and was frightening at the same time. We thought that we were molested. So yeah, creepy old lady. Let's not meet. Creepy old ladies alert. This is an early memory, so please forgive any minor details that might be fuzzy, leading to the main experience, which is still crystal clear in my mind. I was about 7 or 8 years old. Our neighborhood was a nice middle-class one, in a neighborhood watch area as well. and on a relatively quiet street. Because of this, and because even at a young age, I enjoyed being outside alone after dark. My parents themselves felt safe with letting me stay outside a little tad longer until the streetlights all came on. This was never a problem or cause for fear or even concern until this one fall evening. My neighborhood friends had gone inside before me, as they often did, so I decided to ride my bike alone up the little street, a little ways to the church parking lot. I rode my bike, or skated here alone many times before and had always felt safe doing so, especially being that my backyard was just across the street and 2 houses up a small hill, and was easily seen from where I was. After riding my bike for a little while longer and practicing wheelies for a little while, I noticed the streetlights pop on and the telltale deepening of the blue of the sky, telling me it was time to get home. I was walking out of the parking lot with my bike, ready to cross the street, when I saw a car coming up the road. It was a big old car and was moving very slowly. But I was taught not to ride nor walk out in front of traffic, so I stood there with my bike and just waited for them to pass. Instead of passing though, the car slowed down and stopped right in front of the curb where I was standing. I backed away instinctively, as I was a very shy little girl and quite untrusting of strangers. The window rolls down, and inside the car, sitting side by side, are 3 old women. I'm not even kidding about this. They look to be in their late 60s or early 70s, with gray granny haircuts and dowdy floral clothing, just like any nice, regular-looking grandmas you'd see in the park or something. Smiling too sweetly, the one closest to me in the passenger seat says hello to me and asked for my name. I tell her bluntly, I don't give my name to strangers. She tells me that she is hard of hearing and asked if I could come closer so that she could hear me better. She asked me if I know where a specific daycare is, and I literally have no idea. I even forgot the name now. I mean, at 7 years old, my map ended at the top of our street. I tell her no again, in a loud enough tone to be heard from my rooted out-of-reach position, and tell her that I have to hurry away to get home. It's in that moment that I realized that the lady driving is not speaking nor looking at me. She's just staring at her rearview mirror or looking ahead, and the other lady is smiling at me, not really talking, but occasionally quietly saying something to the old lady who is talking to me. I also remember clearly taking notice of and wondering why these ladies were all crammed up in the front bench seat while the spacious back seat was completely empty. All of these things combined started to cause some real alarm inside me, and I considered running for it. Some part of me was afraid they would back over me if I ran behind their car to get away. It was then that the passenger seat lady offers me a ride home. I practically shout, "No!" She looked slightly put off, and then asked if I would help them look for this daycare if they took me to Dairy Queen. All the while the driver is still sitting there quietly. It was then I heard my mother calling for me. Snapped out of my frozen reverie, I dropped my bike and ran like my ass was on fire for home. I told my mother what had happened. She believed me, as I was not prone to attention getting wild tales. She looked over to the church from our backyard, and the car was still there, idling. After a minute or two, it creeped away down the street and was gone. My dad went to retrieve my abandoned bike, and I never saw them or their car again. I tried over the years to apply any reason or rationale to the situation. I know in my gut that they were up to no good, but why would old ladies try to kidnap me? I read years later that the black market is full of kinky old ladies who seem altogether harmless and unassuming, and are hired to assist in abductions. I've often wondered, too, if that spacious back seat was indeed empty, or who it was for. Seeing as how long ago this happened, and given their advanced age at the time, I am certain that we will not meet again in this world. However, I would like to stress to any readers out there to be careful and always listen to your inner alarms. Wolves, after all, are masters of the skies.